I'm here at another one of the little sulfur springs that gave Sulfur Springs its name. The one we were at previously is up the river that way a little bit. The river's right out here. This is the little creek that comes off of that little sulfur spring. This is a very small spring, and this runs down this way. This is Lowry Park, goes through the park that way and down to the river. I'm going to show you the whole thing. So it makes a little pond here. Kids come down here and play, and there's actually a sign here somewhere that says there's an alligator in here. And this runs down here. It's a beautiful little creek off of a sulfur spring. There's a lot of little springs around Tampa, and it runs down this little canal. And you can see all the plants that grow along it naturally, all the way down to the river. And this guy just became a movie star. This is a park I used to play in when I was a kid. This pond used to have a wall around it, and a kid fell in it one day and almost drowned, and my dad jumped in and pulled him out. My dad became my hero that day. I just wanted to show you this because I think it's really beautiful. It's so peaceful here and so relaxing. I don't know if you can hear the water trickling across the ground there as it comes out and goes into that little brook. Too much traffic too close by. But I can imagine why places like this were attractive to the Zodiac Killer, because you know, he was really all hyped up all the time about killing people and everything, and this is probably where he would unwind. And then in the middle of unwinding, he would find another victim. What a psycho life he led. A little peaceful park. People come out here to jog and work out and do different things. That's the river over there. We'll go over there and get a little closer to it in a minute. And they have a play area for kids. This is a gorgeous little river, the Hillsborough River, that wraps around where I used to live and where the Zodiac Killer lurked and looked for children to murder. Frank Morris and the Anglin brothers, the unknown Zodiac Killers. And here's that beautiful little sulfur spring pond. You can see over here where you can have a barbecue. The kids can play. And then beware of alligator in the pond behind you where your kids are playing. Here's a little spot where they can get right down to the water and play with the alligator. Now, don't bring your kids down here to play with alligators, okay? They will eat children. Kind of the entryway to where the water actually comes out of the ground, and we're going to go down there and film that. And here we are. Always keeping an ever-watching eye out for the lurking alligator, resident pet of the park. But if you'll look at these trees, they very much remind me of the pictures of the trees that Frank Morris put on the front of the Mary Pilker Christmas card. And I believe that he may have gotten the idea for that Christmas card from a memory of these kind of tangled up trees. And he found the letter RN in there because Donna Lass was a registered nurse. Now, take a close look. And then look at the front of the Mary Pilker Christmas card where I've showed you that Frank Morris and the Anglin brothers are carrying Donna's body to her grave. Now, here is the actual spring. And what I want you to see here and to notice, right there where the water comes out of the ground, right there where the water comes out of the ground, underneath these rocks, if you take a look at this, it somewhat resembles the headstone that Frank Morris made for Donna Lass up there at Donner Pass. Okay, and you have the whole combination here. The limestone, the running water. This is perfect Frank Morris territory. Perfect Zodiac Killer territory. Look at those rocks, and then look at the pictures that I put on there of that I put on YouTube of Donna Lass's grave. I believe he took this memory back with him, and possibly even some pictures, and he kind of built her grave to look like this. You see the big pile of rocks? This is a natural formation though, and he kind of made that grave to look like this. That's just my thoughts on the whole thing. Sure is beautiful here. Wasn't that beautiful? Little springs up here at Sulfur Springs. Very difficult to see. You can't get to this without wading. But you know, the more I think about it, Frank mentioned to me something about these springs in Mexico City. He told me when you go up to Donner Pass to look for that treasure, that buried treasure, which was Donna Lass's grave, he said, remember those springs in Sulfur Springs. And he said that some of them were really hidden, that you couldn't see them. And he said, remember the rock formations. And there's one that's hidden down here, the one I just showed you. It's kind of difficult to see, but you know, as close as these come to looking like that grave of hers, I'm thinking that if I keep searching around here, I can find one that's going to be a whole lot like that, like her grave. Well, let's keep looking. Rock forms. This rock formation is around this little creek. Really reminds me of Donna's gravesite area. That's interesting, because I'm sure he told me, remember those rock formations around the Sulfur Springs down there in Tampa when you get up there. And you're looking for the treasure. Rock formations. Isn't that beautiful? But we're still not to the last spring. And the more I think about it, the more certain I am that Frank told me to search out all of these springs, that there was some kind of clue there that would bring the pieces to this puzzle together. So let's keep searching. Can you see that turtle on the bank over there? Just sitting there hid under a lily pad. Remembering back in the 50s that there was rumor that you should stay away from these bushes because kids would go in here and wouldn't come back out all throughout this park before it was so civilized. It wasn't as the kind of park it is now. It's just kind of open and wild. But I can see how this would be a perfect place for Frank to look for bushes and trees to hide in and wait for a victim to come along. What a life. And get another look at it. You have this area where kids can play, which wasn't mowed grass and wasn't taken care of like this back in the 50s. It was still wild. And yeah, they always said stay away from the creeks. And see, a place like that, he could live in there and no one would know about it. Just wait for a lone child to come along to become his victim. An area like that. But I recall him telling me that I should search out every one of these springs to find something. I don't remember what it was, but I'm pretty sure it was something that would help me find Donna Lass's grave. There's one more across the street up at the actual Lowry Park, And I'm remembering now that Frank said you have to go to the one that's up by the main park to really see, and he kind of went to body language there and quit talking. So let's go over there and see what we can find. I think this may be the area that Frank was talking about when he said go up by Lowry Park to look for a spring. That's Lowry Park over there. And then there's this pond looking thing here, which has to be fed by a spring that's in there somewhere. Now I need to get in there and look for it, according to Frank Morris, but the problem is they have it fenced off. Now what makes me think that this is an ideal location is because right on the other side of it over there is Sly Avenue. The Sly Avenue Bridge, where they left poor little Karen's body, is right over there, just maybe a few thousand yards. This would have given them a place to hide, a place to live, or whatever, while they snuck around and searched for victims. It would even give them a place to bring victims that they abducted. I'm sure this was an important area to the Zodiac killer, because look at this fence. It's high, barbed wire around it, and if you look closely at that wooden fence over there, it has insulators on it. It actually had an electric fence around it at one time to keep people out. I really wish I could get down in there, because I think I'm going to find a spring with a rock formation that's going to be nearly identical to the rock formation that they built on Donna Lass's grave. You know what? As much fortification as they have around this little spring pond area, I bet you a lot of murderers used this as a place to dump bodies and whatever. So terrible.